not sorry that my policies don't work for you. And that sucks about your cough, but there's work to do. Gotta reopen the shop, gotta just push through. 2 jars of bleach, pick one, you lose. 2 jars of bleach, which one do you choose? When neither gives a shit about you, or shares your views, or cares if you can't pay for food. Get a firm grip on the straps of your boots. Get a good look at the last of the fruit. Get your good book, cause you can't buy booze. Honey, take heart, cause the dead don't bruise. Honey, take heart, cause the dead don't bruise. So a bit about me, I don't believe in God, right? That said, I'll be praying on debate night. Joe can't speak right. You could call me petty, but I really want to see him bring a knife to a dogfight, or each mutt stuffed a blunderbuss up into his canines, and they can pull right up alongside Joe in broad goddamn daylight and maul his broadside. Cause Joe's gonna fold up the sails and stick the cannons all at the wrong side. And I'm not saying he and only he solely represent the wrong side. I'm saying both parties work to keep us hogtied. And we have been immobilized and fed upon steadily for such a long time that we're too weak to see that it could ever have been otherwise. Don't focus on our nominees' laundry list of rape accusals, focus on the other guys. Focus on the other side. Focus on the Tiger King. Look, there's a firefly. Now what were you saying, Tara Reid? Yeah, she's an actress, right? She was in a film called A Pattern of Unwanted Hugs and Touches from a Man That You Trusted, right? And in the end, when she finds out her boss was just another piece of shit, she felt betrayed and then disgusted, right? And he goes on to live his life, run for office, keep his wife, and nobody discussed it, right? Yeah, I've seen the film 100 fucking times. I've seen the film 100 times. There's 2 jars of bleach on a table. Pick either one and you lose. 2 jars of bleach on the table. Exercise your right to choose. I don't believe in God, right? You don't think I see you crying in your cars, but I do. Sometimes I can feel it at a red light, someone at my side trying to muddle through. See them wiping their eyes in the rear view, like black hole sun in the sky. Why the fuck won't you come when I need you? Well, this moment in time is as close as we'll be and as far as I'll meet you. 2 windows in between us, new moon in the house of Venus. One stranger who sees you and reads your features knows that your alibi might be tight, but it's not quite leak-proof. So if you're sitting at the light and you're crying in your car, just know that I see you. And it's a 50-50 that I'm bloodshot, gun shy, once bitten, twice tried, ribs pried wide to the sky till I'm see-through.
That's you, in case you don't recognize yourself.
You don't think I see you struggling to breathe, but I do. I see you stumble in your everyday grief like I do. I try, but I do. I'm twice bitten too. My mind's split in 2. My knuckles bright white from the 10 to the 2. And the song in my head is the theme for a fugue, a state of decay through the filter of corporate news, where they edit the grays and the blues. They whitewash the brown till they drown out the natural hues. And then it's just another fact to refuse, that the corporate ladder's for hanging the company noose. Consider it one of your perks, after all it's communal in use. So you can come and hang till your legs go limp and they're shaking you loose. Now you watch 5 co-workers opt for the alternate exit, neatly suspended above where you wolf down your food. And your company gets its incentives embellished by harping on wellness, suggesting you'd best take time for your mental health after your 14 hours are through. Like we gave you a bottle to piss in and fixed up a noose on the crossbeam. Christ, what more can we do? So if you struggle to breathe any moment that you aren't asleep, then remember, most of Americans fear for their savings, fear for their shelter, fear for their babies. You aren't the fringe of exception, but rather a perfect example of capital's rule. And you're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. You're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. I see you crying in your cars, but I do. Her hands are bound behind her candidate, who found the perfect hill on which to lay it down for good. Who she might not agree with. Celebrating war crimes, but talks just like she could. He's got the IDF's back and the CIA's back like a Democrat should. Mr. Anti-Establishment didn't start the fire, but he's slipping on his hood. Her voice is grafted to a candidate who might not always speak for her, but what is she to say? Why bother harping on an issue that Americans won't listen to? It seems like such a waste. But what activism is saying they don't give a shit, but if I don't, why would they? So way to rob yourself of agency, then chain yourself to genocide and look the other way. I love to see a fellow running as a Democrat, taking stacks of money from a GOP super PAC, calling out corruption in the giant fucking country club he's clearly been accepted at. But
just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
Well, it's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Younis. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Is another Wednesday with Iron and News. It's me, Reef Breland, as always, with my co-host, Collin Radix-Carter, aka Care Bear. Gaber, how are you? Doing right? Yay! Balloons. I love how you just have this magic power that I don't have. It's fun.
I think it's my Mac.
I think it's
that makes
Discord.
that power.
I think just Discord doesn't do it for me for some reason. Weirdly.
Well, again, I think that's why, because I have a Mac, you don't. It might be a Mac thing.
I think it just doesn't
know.
show it. Like, I think it might show me on yours, but I'm usually showing both of us. I don't know. It's weird. But it does stuff for you, which is cool. It's a fun little thing you can do.
That's
I don't know what else. You could do little hearts. You could do peace signs. We got both those. Look at there. Look at those hearts. Look at them. Oh, isn't that nice?
Wait.
There it goes. Isn't that fun?
Oh, that's all?
And then I think if you did the peace sign had balloons somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is there, but we'll figure it out, I guess. But
I'll have those superpowers before too long, I'm sure.
yeah. The worst superpowers in the world. You can just make tiny little images. Great. Anyway, we brought some stories this week. As we tend to do. What'd you bring?
So a thing happened last Thursday that you and I refused to talk about because it's against two idiots. But that being said, I did watch parts of the debate, not the whole debate, because I actually care about my life. But there was an article that I found. There were two that I found that went a little more deeper in terms of what wasn't necessarily said in the debate. So I chose this one since the other one was based around Israel. And I feel like we can only do one Israel story a week at this point, which you're going to cover later. But we're going to talk about, it's kind of a mix of things, but mostly how Biden wasn't able to give any alternative policy or plan against what Trump was saying in the debate. Just a lot of stuff that was left unsaid, which I feel it should be talked about more versus whether or not Biden is incapable of leading the country for a second term, although that is also something to be also should be discussed as well. But I think moving forward, we need to know what he plans to do in his second term. So we're going to go in a little bit about that. And then later on tonight, well, you know this because we talk about this every week, how corporations and the bureaucracy and the powers that be in our country are giving workers the shaft. So we have another op-ed that talks about how workers need to revolt, basically. I thought this might be one we might want to save for the future, because I'm sure it's going to be needed. So yeah, I have a couple of op-eds this week, given that it's kind of a not light, but like a slow news week, and I feel everyone's traveling, probably as today. So just wanted to keep it kind of somewhat light. It's something that can, kind of go into archives in terms of stuff we've talked about. That can fit anywhere. I do have an extra story regarding Bolivia. One of our fam requested that story since that kind of broke when we were live. Yes, last week. So I kind of want to do something a little different, just kind of giving more of an update and kind of a little more context towards the coup that occurred. So this is what we mean. We listen to you guys when you tell us, usually, if there are any suggestions for stories, to let us know, whether through the comments or DM at Gendidi News. So please let us know. and definitely depending on if it makes sense, then we would definitely would love to report on the story. So so that's an extra story that we'll do at the end. And what do you got?
Well, Wikipedia has decided to ban the ADL for unreliability. So, Anti-Defamation League is not going to be editing Wikipedia articles going further. So that's nice. And Younis has been reinvaded, and people are being forced out of their homes again. So yeah, I figured we'd go back into that since we covered the first one, and might as well cover it again. So, any questions? Everything cool? Well, as always, talking about these things is why we're demonetized. So if you want to send us a super chat during this live stream, scan that QR code on your screen. You can go to co-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Links as always in the description below. And if you're in that live chat, put !donate. A little link you can click and go right there. Funky stuff might happen if you send them some dollary dues. Look at all these people who've already sent us dollary dues. Your name can get put up on the Hall of Fame here, and I probably have to update my ticker. You'll be put in there too. But again, all these links to support us are in the links below, as well as to our Linktree, also in the description below. But rumble.com/she/indie-news-network. You want to watch us on a alternative platform other than YouTube. Rockfin is still broken for INN, but luckily, Mr. Indie News has allowed us to use his, which appears to be working. So I'm linking those in the chat for people if they would like to go there to watch this stream instead. But otherwise, you ready for our first one, Care Bear?
Yeah. So let's just get into it. So we'll watch some of the debate. So the op-ed that I'm going to refer to kind of goes into different topics. They all kind of relate. But I feel this is kind of the thesis of why this op-ed was written in the first place. So this part was after the second commercial break, where they started talking about Black people in terms of how disappointed they might feel in terms of what Biden didn't accomplish, particularly for Black people in this past term. That would have been a great discussion to have talk about reparations or other stuff, but I digress. But anyway, so we'll watch, I'll say, less than 5 minutes before they go into the next topic, and then we'll get into the article. So you can go ahead when you're ready.
Yay! Oh, wait. In full screen. And you know what? Just because we're going to do this and this.
Right.
In a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done.
I didn't want to stop, but I thought it was very interesting. And it's funny that I don't think anyone has talked about. He talks about childcare as if that's a black issue.
Yeah.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I'm in early childhood, it's not. It's I would argue a Western issue. But
and you
notice
ain't
how
black.
he talks about it in terms as, it's an issue that is specific to black people. Funny how I haven't heard anyone necessarily say anything regarding what he said there regarding childcare. But anyway, keep going. Also, before we go on, you notice how when she said, Dana Bash said, what do you have to say to black people who are disappointed? He immediately went in and was kind of like, well, we did stuff for them. And he started, that's not, and she's going to ask him again. But you notice how he just kind of dismisses what she said in terms of him saying, I did stuff, so the blacks should be grateful that I did these things. Kind of that attitude to me, in my opinion. So, so you notice even there, he just kind of dismissed the question and just kind of, not to say those things that he mentioned aren't necessarily good, but not everyone is going to benefit from the policies that he mentioned here. Don't talk about universal health care. Don't talk about increasing wages. Don't talk about, policing. We'll get into that when we read the article. So just kind of going off of here's the stuff that we've done. Here's the crumbs we give them to black people, and shove it. That's the attitude that I basically get from that.
Yeah,
so,
essentially.
I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care.
Yeah.
But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up.
Is the audio janky for you too, or is it just
49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you, President.
Yeah.
They
So
took our gerbs?
that's where
took our
the black job
black
came
gerbs?
from. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, it was just more or less like he talked about housing, he talked about student loans, yes, but that's not what Dana was necessarily asking. I felt she was kind of asking, what are the issues that are specific to Black people? Policing, as I said, reparations is another one, but she's not going to talk about that.
No, not with those two idiots.
No. So that's what she was asking. And, Biden was just kind of dismissive in terms of, not even dismissive, but just like, here's the stuff that I did do. Yeah, but those things benefit everybody, not just Black people. So, and, of course, Trump just kind of went off on a tangent. But that goes along with, here we go. You can go to full screen. This goes into the op-ed that I pulled. This is from Truffaut, written by Alex S. Vital, where he writes, Biden offered no alternative to Trump's pro-policing authoritarianism in debate. Biden did not put forth a progressive or convincing counterweight to Trump's xenophobic and authoritarian tirades. So Alex continued, in 2020, the U.S. experienced some of the largest protests in its history focused on police violence and demands to restructure public safety. Unfortunately, the CNN moderators at Thursday night's presidential debate saw no need to directly ask candidates about these issues. While some of them did arise in the context of the opioid crisis, border enforcement, and the overall well-being of Black America, as we just watched, the answers offered by both candidates lacked a clear political program. Donald Trump's overarching narrative for the debate was that Joe Biden has diminished U.S. power by opening the border and allowing millions of illegal immigrants released from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into the country to take our jobs, overwhelm our healthcare and social security systems, and rape and kill us. This narrative of declining American strength and safety absolves the multinational corporations on Wall Street of poisoning us, creating massive inequity and destroying the planet, the true sources of middle and working class insecurity. Trump's solution is ever more resources for police, prisons, and the deportation state. In response to this powerfully toxic narrative, Biden tweeted the fact that he just put more police on the streets and made a few weak claims that police and the Border Patrol support him, hardly a progressive or convincing counterweight to Trump's xenophobic and authoritarian tirades.
Pause. We've covered how Biden has made it worse for immigrants.
Yes.
And made it harder to immigrate. And made deportation more of a problem.
Right.
So
funny because even CNN had to fact check Biden on that after the fact.
I've also
that he actually,
isn't it this was the case like I want to say 10 years ago that like there's more immigrants leaving the country than like heading back to Mexico than coming here.
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right.
That might not be the case now. I mean, there's also the weird stuff supposedly about immigrants being put on buses and taken to sanctuary cities, and
right.
I don't know the validity to some of that. It seems a bit like too convenient, you know? So, and to what end, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some tinfoil hats in the chat that might know more than me, but, you know.
Well, you know, if Trump was smart, that could have been an issue he could have brought up against Biden.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, now either one of them, but at least for Trump, you could have made the argument that your immigrants are being sent to sanctuary cities, which are typically liberal cities.
Yeah.
And well, in certain cases, like we know in Chicago, that immigrants are getting more perks to the detriment of, you know, especially Black people who have lived in Chicago forever. So they're kind of pissed about that. But then, like, the idea that certain immigrants, depending on the country, depending on the city that they go to, are kind of shuffled around because the people living there don't necessarily want them in their neighborhood, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that could have been something Trump could have brought up if he was smarter. Now, then again, Biden could have also countered with, immigrants coming at the border, and Republican governors basically shipping them off to other cities. So you could have made a case either way, but basically neither one of them mentioned that. So I think that was a huge loss for both of them in terms of, they kind of talked around the issue, but they didn't get to the heart, and they didn't offer solutions as to how to deal with that problem among other issues. Speaking of,
yeah,
when asked about the fentanyl crisis, Biden focused on interdiction issues such as blocking persecuted chemicals and machinery needed to process fentanyl from coming into Mexico.
Yeah.
There was no mention of expanding healthcare and harm reduction services or exploring controlled safe distribution of opioids, which would immediately reduce the presence of fentanyl and dramatically reduce the likelihood of drug overdoses. Trump failed to even answer the question, using his time to hammer home his core messages about migrants as threats and Biden's overall incompetence. Rather than pointing out Trump's utter lack of concern for people's well-being, Biden's rebuttal fell into the trap of trying to respond to Trump's tirades, allowing the former president to control the agenda and tone of debate. And I think ultimately that was
he didn't have to do anything. He could just sat there.
Didn't count. Well, even with the idea like the Black Jobs quote, Biden didn't counter that at all. Like he just kind of let him just go off on that tangent. Or when Trump called him, Biden, a bad Palestinian as a slur, didn't even counter that. And you would figure that given that Gaza is a big issue right now,
I've got a
that
video
they had
on
a lot more to say
on that in a bit
did.
for sure.
Right.
That I'll bring. But that requires this.
Zooming in, yes. Thank you. The candidates were asked a generic question about the stubborn racial disparities in economic, critical, legal, and social outcomes for Black Americans. Trump used this as an opportunity to point out how little progress has been made under Biden, and that Biden helped drive these disparities through his embrace of the super predator myth in the 1990s. Trump also had the audacity to claim to support police reform, though he failed to define what that is. Biden rightfully pointed out that the employment gains experienced by Black Americans under his administration and the variety of social and educational programs he supports that would have a disproportional positive impact on the Black community, such as expanding child care tax credits, which you lost under your term, by the way. Pell Grants, and support for historically Black colleges and universities. But he did nothing to address the enormous disparities in the criminal legal system, despite the fact that his administration has taken a few concrete steps in this direction, such as funding police-based violence reduction initiatives.
Except, where all those cop cities coming from?
Right.
Where's that funding coming from?
Right.
Like
I would argue that he's funding the police state more versus
who wrote the crime bill again?
What's
Who
that?
did that? Who wrote the crime bill again?
Oh.
Who did that? Again, people forget Biden wasn't always demented. I mean, arguably demented throughout his entire career, but I don't mean in the sense of he had some marbles left when he was trying to cut Medicare and push for more police-heavy states and, talking about super predators and yada, yada, yada. People forget that crap. He pretty much believed the same things Trump believed now.
Right.
So, there ain't no difference. Hate to tell you.
And I think the debate in a lot of ways proved that. It was just neither one of them, both of them are more alike in terms of policy than different. Yeah, Biden might do some stuff slightly better, but it's nothing radical in terms of actually helping people, especially the Black community. And we know how Trump is crazy anyway. But both of them had nothing to offer in terms of any issue that is kind of pressing in the country right now. And and I've been saying this, you even go to Biden's website, Like, there's no
3-0,
policy.
3-3-0.
No policy. Right.
I mean, it's also, bro, even when you know what it is? He just didn't have enough records played to him as a child when he went to sleep. I think that's what the problem was. Oh, God. Fucking dumb shit.
Oh, zoom back in. I'm not done.
Okay, I thought you were done.
No.
Mm.
Anyway, Biden's lack
There you go.
of a clear response on this issue may be tied to his perception of it as a losing position. While many in the Biden administration and its key constituencies favor dialing back criminalization, they feel that it is politically impossible to state that clearly and openly. Yeah, because Pelosi basically said, we're not doing shit, we're going to defund the police. So that makes a lot of sense. Leaving the president to quietly support some good programs while publicly leaning into a police-centered crime control strategy that will never be able to compete with Trump's undiluted authoritarianism.
Yep.
You can zoom out. Thank you. As long as Democrats from Biden to local city mayors lean into pro-police policies in an effort to triangulate their way into gaining the support of a few remaining independent voters, they will fail to produce either electoral victories or any semblance of justice. By validating the idea that police are the central institution for producing public safety, Democrats empower a narrative of authoritarian crime control that they will never obtain because the right wing will always take things one step further. Their efforts at sounding reasonable merely shift the Overton window to the right. Democrats will not be able to energize their base without a bold vision of public safety that is clearly distinct from Trump's racist rants. We need a completely different vision of the overdose crisis rooted in values of care and compassion, as well as the science of drug treatment, harm reduction, and safe supply that would save lives, restore families and communities, and disempower violent international drug cartels.
What causes those?
Our policies, I think.
I do believe so.
We must embrace the incredible value of immigration, legal or otherwise, which has played a huge role in revitalizing whole sectors of our economy and regions of our country. We must categorically reject the policies of xenophobia and articulate values of solidarity and directly address our own role in creating the conditions that have driven people from their homes in desperation. A program of true radical racial justice will go beyond kneeling with kente cloth and appointing a few non-white people to highly visible positions.
Yeah.
Such a program need not to be constructed as a racial zero-sum game in which one group's advancement comes at the expense of another. A broad anti-poverty program that lifts wages and essential services like education and healthcare would partially benefit communities, particularly benefit communities of color, and will help break down racial barriers rather than reinforce them. At the center of such an effort would have to be an across-the-board reduction in our reliance on policing and prisons to address problems of poverty, social dislocation, and differential access to essential services. Trump's debate responses reflected his allegiance with the most reactionary forces in our society, those that will want to demonize migrants, unleash unregulated corporate power, and free the hands of police to use whatever forms of violence and humiliation are deemed necessary to restore some fanciful notion of order at the expense of the most vulnerable among us.
Pause.
Biden's weak policies, yes.
You could just reread that and replace Trump with Biden. Same thing.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Why do people insist on making distinctions here when it's the same thing?
Right.
Like,
I think I sent this to you, I think maybe last week, but
yeah,
my mayor,
the mayor,
initiated a police drone program.
Mm-hmm. We've covered stuff like that.
Yeah, we covered that. You've covered that ad nauseum. But you know, but it's the idea of like, oh, the police gets new toys while teachers cannot get a raise.
Yep.
Right? And it's funny, like I see a lot of leaders within my city pushing the police more, whereas 4 years ago, it was the idea of like, we want to minimize the role police have in order to have more community programs shine and take some of the pressure off from the police. But now they've kind of reverted back to, oh, crime is bad in DC or other cities. We need more police. We've kind of gone, and these are Democrats who are making this call. So that, as I said,
Robo-dogs, all that stuff, AI facial recognition, mounted guns, all that stuff. Where do you think they're testing those kind of stuff on a like populace? Where do you think that's happening?
Well, we've talked about how they're testing, well, not testing, in Gaza.
Ukraine too.
Ukraine too, but in many of these cop cities, and we've mentioned there's more than one. It's not just the one in Atlanta. Like there's more being built or being proposed to be built in other states as well. So it's this idea of Democrats claim that they want to do right by the people when they're actually creating the catalyst where someone like Trump is just going to go over the edge to the right, and be as authoritarian and as fascist as we know he and the Republican Party have now become. So, but you're right. Like that first sentence, you can replace it with Biden, and it would pretty much it would be the same thing. That being said, Biden's weak policies and incoherent responses during the debate may give us another 4 years of Trump and his drive to turn the U.S. into a despotic kleptocracy.
Kleptocracy,
yeah. So,
as in kleptomaniac, using those Latin-based root words. Everyone knows their Latin. Greek and Latin, got to know it. But yeah, I mean, it's just par for the course, and I think a lot of people are slow on the pickup here. Clearly, we've been here for a lot longer, I think, and normally we wouldn't cover this kind of stuff anyway. But I wanted to bring on the topic of Israel. We talked about that, right? And how there's no difference there either, correct?
Correct.
So let me bring this and full screen this. Well, I should read it first. So Rabbi explains the esoteric role of Trump, the 44th president, was meticulously placed into office because of his role as a Gilgal, an incarnation to lead the Goyim into obedience to the Jewish nation. So we'll let Rabbi Mindul Knesson.
Now, but just to understand something, so Trump therefore becomes president, which he had to. Who is Trump? Trump is a Gilgal, I mentioned last time, of Antoninus, Rome. Rome is Asav, isn't it? You see, so he becomes an incarnation, because his job is Rav Yavoi Tzoy, truly to assist Jews. And like I said, I realized this a long time ago. Now, but just to understand something.
So, I mean, he's also selected, But, I mean, just as much as Biden, RFK, multiple others, So, pick one. They're all selected. So, hate to tell you, but you're not going to vote your way out of this.
Right.
So,
no, it's, and again, it's just the idea of neither one of them had anything to offer. And that was the main critique that I had regarding the debate. Neither one of them had anything to offer that would excite people. It was just a lot of, Trump was just saying a lot of doom and gloom, like Project 25 is just popping up all over Twitter, especially within the last week. And Biden is not saying anything to kind of counter to calm people, or at least be the leader of, you know what, I got this. Here's my vision. Here's my plan. Here's my way to move forward. There's been no semblance of urgency or leadership from him that will make people feel comfortable and confident that he has got a hold of this. But yeah, especially given like, and you can kind of fill in the blank in terms of police, but that's what Alex mentioned in the article. You know, that could have been a prime time for Biden to kind of say, you know what, given what happened 4 years ago with George Floyd, actually, even with that, like, let's talk about safety for Black people with the police. Didn't even mention that. So that's what Dana was kind of, I guess, mentioning or trying to get Biden to kind of speak about those things. But as Alex said, it's now become taboo to kind of talk about defund the police.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of mention, oh, all I'm going to do is, all I'm going to say is I funded the police more, which is something Trump would definitely do. But on the street, that's not what people want. And as I said, I'm seeing a lot of Democratic leaning leaders, especially in DC, who are now pushing for more police again. You've seen me, you know, on Twitter, like talking to like a few of these leaders, but you know, but we're kind of shifting back more to the right in terms of bringing that order in terms of policing along with other issues versus actually moving toward the bend of justice. So that's where both of them were extremely lacking, and why we're fucked, as Steve would say.
Takes a second to get to that one. I think it's right here.
We're
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
But like I said, we'll probably clip this. We'll save this in the archives. We'll probably refer to this at some point in the near future. I can predict.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, stories like this is the reason why YouTube hates us, demonetizes us, and suppresses us on the platform. So the best way you can help us is by see that link on the screen at Ko-fi. You can donate there, or if you type in @donate in the chat, it will also pull up the link where you can donate to us directly, or that QR code there. You can scan it and you can give to us there. We really appreciate your donations in order to help, as you say, Reef, keep the lights on.
Yeah.
In order to deliver us, bring you guys more content.
Also
So
in that
because we are
description
suppressed,
down below.
yes, all the links to where you can give money are in the description. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share this stream and clips to fight the suppression that we're having on YouTube, and to make sure you leave a comment. That actually does help in the algorithm, believe it or not. Help INN get to, you said 3. I'm going to say 5, just so you don't have to keep changing it like every 1,000. You know? But yeah, thank you guys for watching. And
to the chats.
There you go. Yes.
Let's. Denver Attaway is holding it down on the rock fin. We have a rock fin that is working tonight. I will link those in the chat for people if they would like to go there. And then Rumble. And then we'll check those first. Denver Attaway, watching Biden speak is like watching someone with a tightrope, not trained in walking a tightrope. Yeah. Dana Bash looks like one of the stretched shovel face folk in Beetlejuice. Sure. You know, so maybe that's someone's thing. I don't know. Alern Demure, I hope I'm not butchering your name completely like I think I am. Just says hi everyone on the Rumble. You know, if you're on Rumble and you're watching and you're not a lizard person, use those opposable thumbs and do some little type and get in that chat so people aren't all over there, you know. But people on YouTube are talking about picking raspberries and blackberries because it is the season to do so. Delicious berries. Berries are tasty. Let me look for some good ones. People are over on our Kick channel, too. Look at that. So Biden has always been demented, just not always in the medical sense.
Yeah.
Biden used to brag about being tough on crime. Dr. Nick over on Kick. Biden is the last Southern segregationist in government. Yep. Turns out, a lot of those Goldwater girls still around, ain't they? But, yep. People complaining that we use the word boomer. Don't worry. Oz the Boomer gave us a boomer card. We're allowed to say it. It's fine. Not use it derogatorily, just observationally. But anyway, you ready for your next one? My next one, I guess?
Yes.
Cool. Collin, you use Wikipedia. Are you allowed to use Wikipedia?
What do you mean I'm allowed?
Well, classically, you're not supposed to use Wikipedia, right? You know,
Right.
it's...
Well, then again, my students are way too young to use Wikipedia anyway.
True.
So.
You know, I just remember not being able to use it in college. So, and high school and middle school.
Well, Wikipedia didn't, well, just to show how old, like, Wikipedia didn't exist when I was in college. I'm not sure if it even, it existed in grad school for me, but yeah, like.
So, they've decided to ban the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and you're probably wondering why that is. Well, we're going to get into it. Luckily, Robert Inlakesh over at Mint Press, social news, putting that out for people. He writes, Wikipedia calls key Zionist lobby unreliable. Robert Inlakesh says the pushback against the ADL is a rebuke to the definition of anti-Semitism adopted by U.S. universities, companies, governments, political parties, and lawmakers. So, the Anti-Defamation League, also known as the ADL, has long been regarded as a trustworthy source on anti-Semitism by Western corporate media. Its reports have often been central to discussions about the rise of attacks against Jewish people. However, the ADL now faces significant backlash for its brazen conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Did you also know, Care Bear, the ADL also consults every FBI agent before taking duty? Just in case you were wondering why.
I didn't know that, but it would make sense.
Yes, it does. So, Wikipedia has added the New York-based Anti-Defamation League to a list of banned and partially banned sources due to its conflation of anti-Jewish hate crimes and anti-Israel critiques. Good looking out, Wikipedia. After editors voted it unreliable as a source of information, the ADL now finds itself along sources like Newsmax and Occupy Democrats. This development places the ADL, considered part of the vast network of groups that form the Israel lobby, in the category of unreliable information source. I mean, a little late, but better late, I guess. ADL no longer appears to adhere to a serious mainstream and intellectually cognate definition of anti-Semitism. Instead, it has succumbed to the shameless politicization of the very subject it was originally esteemed for being reliable on, said Wikipedia editor Iskander323. The labeling of the ADL as unreliable is a major blow to the narrative pushed by Western media since December. The narrative cited the NGO's reported data on the unprecedented spike in anti-Semitic incidents following October 7th. The ADL claimed that anti-Semitic incidents rose by 360% after the beginning of the war on Gaza, and that 140% more incidents occurred in 2023 compared to the previous year. That sound about right to you, Care Bear?
Well, here's the thing. It could be right if they include Palestinians.
Yeah, yes. Since they are Semites. Isn't that funny how that works?
I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning.
I mean...
Yeah, so it could be right, but the problem is it does not include Palestinians. So we talked about... Are you sure about that? We talked about him Rajab last week, and we've also mentioned in passing Palestinians in the West experiencing Islamophobic attacks on them, given that they're Palestinian. But those, I'm sure,
the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you.
Those incidences are not included or even mentioned among Zionists at all.
No, they would never. Not from the ADL, especially. So 140% more incidents occurred in 2023 compared to the previous year. Allegedly. However, the ADL has admitted to changing its definition of what constitutes an anti-Semitic incident. The new definition now includes pro-Palestinian protests that featured anti-Zionist chants and slogans. According to the forward, these accounted for around 1,317 of the total incidents reported. So that's like, I don't know, from the river to the sea, or, you know, getting poked in the eye by a flag. One of those things. So, any of those things, I'm sure, gets added to the list for them. Jonathan Greenblatt, the ADL CEO, also what a name, Greenblatt. Like Greenblatt is weird. I don't know, just very strange to me.
No, well, I grew up in Jersey, so So my doctor, at least when I was a kid, his name was Rosenblatt.
Okay.
I had a student in my class whose last name was Blatt. So
Gotcha.
I guess Blatt is a very,
I think it just
I wouldn't say
falls,
common.
It falls flat for names, you know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just ends to, like, you can't be like a Blatt, like, you know, a bird,
I mean,
a stall, a
for
stein.
me, like I've heard variations of Blatt.
Right,
like,
yeah. A thal.
Not all my life, but at least when I lived in New Jersey for sure.
You know. So, but yes. So, Jonathan Greenblatt, the ADL CEO, has also reportedly come under fire for his comments regarding anti-student protests across the United States during an interview with MSNBC, claimed that Iran has the military proxies like Hezbollah, and Iran has their campus proxies, like these groups like SJP and JVP, Jewish Voices for Peace. Oh God, how dare they advocate for peace? Like, and justice, peace and justice. How dare they advocate for peace and justice? Collin, did we not do a story not that long ago on Israeli campus efforts? I do believe they also do the same thing. So it's a bit of black calling kettle in this case, you know.
Right. If anything, that is truly anti-Semitic.
Yes,
because you're going against your own kind. Well, I don't want to say it like that, but like you're going against other Jewish people who are anti-Zionist. So,
yeah. So this is Danny Polashuk. Danny, if you're watching, feel free to send me like a pronunciation, but I hope that's how you do it. You did this lovely skit way back when. I think it fits, so I'm gonna play it here now. So I hope people enjoy.
Hi there, I'm Martin Goldlust, Vice President at the ADL. The Anti-Defamation League has come under much scrutiny, and as a representative of this fine nonpartisan group, I feel that it's time to clear the air. The goal of the ADL is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people while securing justice and fair treatment for all. And we do that by providing handy resources. Take, for example, our glossary of extremism. Here are some problematic and racist terms that you might find in our glossary of extremism, and you can decide for yourself whether they are racist and or problematic. Phrases like do your own research, which is a blatant dog whistle to racists. We also track all the racist numbers that you might come across. Numbers like 3, 6, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, which is odd because that's a lucky number for Jews, 23, 28, 33, 38, 52, 88, 90, 100, 109, 110, 111, 311, which is weird just because that's information in most cities, plus it's a decent band, 318, 511, and finally 737, also the letters H, K, X, and a few vowels that I care not to get into. We also provide things like proper hand washing technique so that you are not mistaken for an anti-Semite. You want to wash your hands like this, and very much not like this. You do not want to rub your hands together like the Grabler, otherwise people will think that you are anti-Semitic. So when you see people trying to discredit the Anti-Defamation League on the internet, just make note of that fact, as these people are in fact racists, and the only reason that they would want to discredit the Anti-Defamation League is because they themselves are doing defamations and they are guilty of said defamations. I'm looking at you, Elon Musk. And while a lot of people say that we are anti-free speech, we are not anti-free speech. We are anti-hate speech. We are here merely to police hate speech. And a lot of people ask, what is hate speech specifically? And we are the ones who decide, and sometimes it could be as little as this gesture or random numbers or whatever. But we're saying what it is, and if you do that stuff, then you'll get fired. It's no big deal. Free speech is protected in this country. Hate speech is not. Thank you very much, everybody. And please, of course, consider donating to the ADL. It's with your generous support that we are able to do this very important work. Please, to our Jewish friends, consider donating in increments of 18, as that stands for Chai, life, and it is a very lucky number. And if you are not Jewish, do not donate $18 increments, as that means you are a white supremacist. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Nope.
I feel like people had the ADL pegged for a minute, including us and Mint Press. Who we covered way back when. Take a look on the channel for this. ADL, is it racist? We covered this a while back. Guess what? Spoiler alert. It totally fucking is. But what do I know? So to continue, in response to this, the Council on American Islamic Relations protested the platforming of Greenblatt. Deputy Executive Director Edward Ahmed Mitchell stated, falsely claiming that Jewish and Palestinian student organizations are literal proxies of the Iranian government is a dangerous and, ironically, defamatory slander and has no place on MSNBC or any other television network. Guess what? That's kind of what MSNBC is for, ain't it? But what do I know? Mitchell has also addressed other comments by Greenblatt, who describes the ADL as a civil rights group. He asserted no civil rights leader would ever equate Jewish and Palestinian college students with Hezbollah, analogize the Nazi swastika to the Palestinian kuffiyah, or question whether Hamas sympathizers were writing MSNBC scripts. I guarantee you that's not happening. In January, an ADL staff revolt occurred after CEO Greenblatt praised Elon Musk, who had seemingly endorsed the anti-Semitic theory that minority communities are responsible for anti-Semitism and that Jewish people are to blame. Greenblatt also sparked controversy when a leaked call revealed him stating, "We have a major TikTok problem and generational issues in garnering public support for Israel." They also go after Spotify. Take a look at our Spotify band low-key segment, which apparently Spotify is now going after pro-Russian accounts as well in regards to the Ukraine war. So, Spotify censoring. So, check out other alternatives like JesseJet/Bandcamp.com. But what do I know? The subsequent targeting of TikTok by the U.S. Congress involving politicians. Also, Colin, didn't Elon Musk meet with Netanyahu not all that long ago?
Yes, he did.
Okay, just making sure. The subsequent targeting of TikTok by the U.S. Congress involving politicians receiving donations from Israel lobby groups suggested that anti-Israeli content was a factor in the legislative push to ban the app. The pushback from Wikipedia against the ADL and its definition of anti-war activists protesting Zionism is a rebuke of the controversial definition of anti-Semitism put forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. This IHRA definition, now adopted by hundreds of universities, companies, governments, political parties, and the U.S. House of Representatives, includes examples of criticism of Israel and Zionism. So, thus, the conflation between criticism of Israel and hatred of Jewish people is not just an ADL problem, as the pro-Israeli group could argue that is following this widely accepted definition. So, any questions?
No.
Yep, didn't think so. So, anything to add? Any comments?
I mean, it's good, but I'm not. It's good that they got to put the brakes on in Wikipedia, but I just want it doesn't mean much in terms of policy because they're already, they're still people are still being targeted, and we talked about numerous not numerous, but enough stories by now where any talk regarding Palestine in a positive way is being obfuscated by essentially it's people within the Israeli lobby that they essentially are threatening people, either to pull those resources or to not talk about it, or in worst cases, either having people fired or doxxed on account of being pro-Palestine. So again, it's a good thing on Wikipedia, but it's not going to help TikTok right now. And actually, you'll be curious to see what happens to TikTok as we head into the fall, especially given with the election coming up. So, I'm certain though, a Zionist is going to try and buy TikTok. Fairly certain. But it's the idea that really kills me. It's the idea that
we already know who owned TikTok. We covered that. Look up TikTok Trojan Horse on the channel. Go check that story out.
Right. But I think the issue that I find interesting is that they essentially changed the definition of anti-Semitism in real time to make it fit within the narrative of what they're trying to push to kind of make them more of the victim and to isolate and shun Palestinians. So that's not cool. But they're powerful enough where they're able to get away with it given. So it's, I mean, I would love for this to be translated into actual policy where it would make a difference, but as of right now, no bueno.
Bye-bye, Israel!
What? Well, talking about these things is why we're demonetized. So you can go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Description below. Hit that QR code on your screen. We're in that live chat, little exclamation mark donate. Send us a little super chat that way. Get your name up on screen like you want to. And if you can't do that, times are tough. You can just like and subscribe. Very easy. You already hear it from every other YouTuber you watch, so you might as well hear it from us. You already know what to do. Go in there, put the comment, share the video. You get it. Otherwise, thanks for watching. All right, to the chats. Before we get to your next story, moving right
wanted
along.
to make a point. Most Zionists aren't Jewish.
Agreed.
Thank you, Indy,
for
that.
Yep. Don't conflate Jews and Zionism. It's bad. It's bad. Okay. Yes, you did a story about the ADL in winter, Indy said. Kill Your Eggers there. The Green Black is a good orc name. I mean, if you're gonna pick a name for your D&D sesh, it's a good one. But
Jack H said, I'm not sure if I should read it, but I have no idea how to use a QR code. Oh, it's simple. You just get your smartphone.
Pull your QR code up.
And go to your camera setting. Yep. It will scan the code, and then it will link you directly to where you need to go. That's all.
Give you a little link right there. Pull your camera up. Put it up there. So this one, right? that little QR code. You can just scan that. Look at that. You'll be able to take it right there. So it's nice. Cool. Rockfin. Martin Goldlust. Also, very good name in that skit. Very nice. I think Mastermind Hour said it was a little too much on the very comical large nose. So I see what you did there. Goldlust is a bit on the oversized nose, isn't it? What Chappy sayings? So, all right. You ready for our next one?
Yep.
Ready.
This story, I mean, I'm assuming everyone in the chat is family. This story is basically preaching to the choir. But this might be for the new people who might be watching us. So if you're new, welcome. Hi. So happy you're here. But this might be a clip, once we do clip this out, that you may want to share with your friends and family, especially if they're liberal. Because this article is going to talk about a lot of the issues that we kind of say here and in independent media in terms of, you know, corporations are basically fleecing us of our wealth and well-being and our mental health, among other things. And it's time to revolt. Among meaning the working class has to revolt. So so this might be another one that we'll probably have to save in the archives for another time. This is from, who wrote this?
Leo Leopold.
That's Leopold.
That's
in Consortium News and Common Dreams, where he writes, pillaging by the super rich. American workers are getting fleeced and they know it. So let's see what he says. There comes a time in the history of a nation where extreme inequality turns into pillage. If economic power is concentrated, so is political power. And the wealthy are able to do whatever they damn well please. They can lie, cheat, and steal because they know they won't be held to account. Have the super rich now taken control of America's political and economic systems? Some current news makes me worry. Let's start with the food industry, the food cartel that includes General Mills, PepsiCo, and Tyson, which has been jacking up prices nonstop since 2020. Why are food prices up 25% since then? These giants blame supply chain, the rising cost of labor, and the rising prices of other inputs required to produce and distribute their products. It's not their fault, they say. But the real culprit, upon closer examination, is stock buybacks, another word for stock manipulation. These firms are fleecing shoppers by raising prices and then using the cash to buy back their own stocks, thereby increasing the market value of each share. Stock buybacks do not increase the value of a company, but they move money effortlessly to the largest Wall Street share owners and to a company's top executives who receive most of their compensation via stock incentive. As food prices shot up by 25%, the 10 largest grocery and restaurant brands have together returned or pledged to return more than $77 billion to shareholders, reports Veronica Richobin in her excellent article, Big Food, Big Profits, Big Lies. In related news, California fast food giants have claimed that the state's 2023 minimum wage law, which raised wages from $16 to $20 per hour, killed 10,000 jobs. Closer look, picked up by the Los Angeles Times, showed that the industry cooked the numbers by comparing employment in September with December. But every year, September is within the peak dine-out season, and in December, people dine out least. When adjusted for seasonal variation or compared with the employment levels exactly 1 year earlier, both standard ways of measuring employment levels, the number of jobs actually increased by 7,000 after the minimum wage law was enacted.
Don't lie on the public platform.
So it sounds like you pay people more, you know, they're willing to work for you, Reef.
Crazy how that works. Isn't that crazy?
The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you.
Boeing recently crashed into the Boeing recently crashed into the news again when company CEO Dave Calhoun was roasted by a couple of congressional committees about its shoddy production processes. There were plenty of outraged performances, but none of the oh-so self-righteous lawmakers had the cojones to ask about the impact on safety of Boeing's $61 billion in stock buybacks, or how about how Calhoun hauled in $30 million in stock incentives while Boeing lost $1.6 billion in 2023. Is it possible that maybe, just maybe, Boeing financed those buybacks by laying off workers, moving work to lower wage subcontractors, and cutting safety corners? Radio silence from Congress. See, did stock buybacks knock the bolts out of Boeing?
Uh-huh. I mean, also, I think they are facing a fraud lawsuit where they have to show up in court. Like, so I got to do more research on that, but supposedly
could be worth a segment.
Yep.
At some point.
So,
then there's the way Wall Street squeezes out new home buyers by gobbling up houses and turning them into rentals. See, Wall Street to working class home buyers. Forget about it. Let's not forget that John Deere recently announced moving jobs from the US to Mexico while feasting on government contracts and, of course, using job cuts to finance stock buybacks.
Also, John fucking Deere, despicable company, by the way, but specifically their right to repair lawsuits spent millions and millions of dollars to try to fight. Why? Because people were getting Russian software so that their tractors could run because they were tired of paying the exorbitant repair costs John Deere forces farmers who have nothing and are not making profit right now to do. So, you know, literally locking people out of their tractors that they've spent hard-earned money on. But it's not the problem with just John Deere, but it is one of the many right to repair fights that we need to have in future. So, but yes, continue, please.
Do we even have to mention how Big Pharma is charging us more than it does Canadians, or how health insurance companies collude to fix prices, or how giant hospital chains overcharge us with impunity? They rip us off to feed their profits, which then get shipped to the richest of the rich via stock buybacks. Of the $3 trillion in after-tax U.S. corporate profits in 2022, about $1.31 trillion went to stock buybacks. In 1980, there were 13 U.S. billionaires. Now there are 748. None of this is accidental. Stock buybacks were deregulated in 1982. That's when Wall Street began its financial war on workers and got filthy rich. See my new book for the gory details. Corporate welfare.
Look at that crazy, ridiculous amount of money glass-walled building that a couple of rocks could easily fuck up. But, you know, stone glass houses and all that.
You can zoom out, please.
Yeah.
I had to read the title, the subheading, because just hearing the phrase corporate welfare makes me nauseous because it's a stark reminder of how feeble we are. Progressives have been complaining about government giveaways to large corporations at least since the 1970s, and the practice has only grown worse. I bet you already know how bad it is. We taxpayers give the oil industry about $20 billion a year in subsidies, while BP, Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil, and Total Energies plow $104 billion in dividends and stock buybacks into the pockets of their shareholders. 2022. Wall Street may be getting as much as $800 million a day by the Federal Reserve, according to the report. I've yet to find a credible source that adds it all up. I'm guessing it's well over $1 trillion a year in direct subsidies, tax breaks, and financial market supports. To rub it in, the richest corporations have successfully lobbied for so many tax loopholes that they pay little or nothing at all. But wait, they tell us, tax cuts and subsidies create jobs.
But they do.
That's the biggest and most painful lie of all. Since the deregulation of Wall Street, corporations have been on a job killing spree. Stock buybacks are financed with job cuts. More than 30 million of us had suffered through mass layoffs, defined as 50 or more workers let go at one time since 1996. Kill the jobs, save some money, buy back your stocks, put the money in your pocket, rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Working class revolts, we're nowhere near any kind of organized mass outright. Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
But American workers are not stupid. They may not be able to spell out in detail how they're getting ripped off, but they know it's happening. Most importantly, they understand that the government works for the rich and not for them. That's why so many are willing to support train-wrecking outsiders who attack the government, even when they are anti-worker billionaire buffoons. Sounds like
So yeah.
You can fill in the actually
insert politician here.
Right.
You know.
In 1964, 77% of Americans had trust in the federal government. Now it's 16%. We're living with the results of the collapse of countervailing working class power. In 1955, 35% of the private sector workers were in labor unions. Today is only 6%. That means there's no organized mass of working class folks with enough power to stop corporate looting. And that's on, and I know you and India have talked about this ad nauseum. How do we miss that? That's on purpose for this reason.
Yep.
So no unions, no, like, just practically no way that they can demand their rights, essentially. And no way, and more importantly, for the unions that do exist, it's a way for corporations to kind of come in and kind of be the heavy hand that controls the leadership.
Yep.
To do what it wants.
You see, boys and girls unions are reformist in nature. Hate to tell you, not that they are available in other systems of commerce, but they are much better in those systems because all the rest is already taken care of. Then, it's actually fighting for the reform you need as opposed to, just crumbs. So, whatever. Co-ops also very good. Please go look at co-ops. So
I hate to be alarmist, but we're really in bad shape, and it's likely to get worse.
I don't. Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. You'll sound the alarm.
Power is so tilted towards the rich that more and more people are giving up on politics, leaving the field open to the modern-day robber baron. This corrupt government is a petri dish for conspiracy theories and hate. Somehow, somewhere, a new working class movement has to emerge. I've been begging progressive labor leaders to start a new organization that will fight against mass layoffs and for workers who are not in union. How about Workers United for Justice?
Also, Kashama's thing's still around, I think, right?
Yes. While labor unions must organize shop by shop, they should also acknowledge that labor law is so tilted against workers that it will be very difficult to make major inroads into the 94% with no union protection. We need a new parallel path to connect with these workers that doesn't involve years and years of costly combat within a rigged labor law system.
I mean, with them,
I feel Indy should be reading this. Honestly.
I don't know what that parallel path is. Guillotines, possibly. Big inflatable ones. Large bricks through windows. I don't know.
These people?
Hey, look at that. He's Ford Lord with $20. Look at you being amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. A minute to get to that one.
Yeah. Victims of mass layoffs are everywhere. They need a voice. They need an organization that will fight for them. If leaders like Sean Fain of the United Auto Workers and Sarah Nelson from the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, AFA, reached out to non-union workers who are getting crushed by Wall Street stock buybacks, those workers might just come running.
But what are they doing instead, Colin? What are they doing instead? They're hanging out with Biden. They're fundraising. They're taking trips to places like Cuba. They're doing lots of fun things. Union leaders doing great stuff. Not look behind the curtain. We've covered a lot of this on How Do We Miss That? So, please go check out all of our videos there. Just one bite after binge watch them all. There's hundreds. Go ahead. What are you doing for the next? So, but anyway.
Until we rebuild large-scale working-class power, it's going to be a very rough ride. If we have learned anything at all since 1980, it's that greed begets greed. The super rich always want more, and they're not shy about grabbing it, even if democracy crumbles all around them and us.
Yep.
So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily give solutions, but I think it's kind of good to hear some truth.
It offered you to think about solutions,
Right.
So, not on the onus of the writer.
Right. That's our job, is to figure that out. And I think in independent media,
I don't even think it's ours.
Our job to align with you guys to figure this out.
When we find it, we'll tell you. So, I'm still waiting. Yeah, I mean, I agree. So, a lot of work still to be done. But, get on that shit.
Well, I would argue that work needs to start. Not because you're saying this in terms of you in the belief that the work has been happening. The work has not been happening because people are just so distraught and just so banged down that no one's doing anything. And the people that we're looking to as heroes are now running off on that corporate side for their own selfish reasons. And they forget the little guys that help them elevate. We talk, we talk about Smalls all the time, and he has said it's a position that he didn't want. Totally get that. But at the same time, your priority was to the folks at JFK. What have they done within the last week?
Chris! No, Chris! What are you doing, Chris?
What are you doing?
Chris? No, Chris? What are you doing, Chris? No. No, Chris.
I didn't think you would put down the soundboard among them.
Oh,
so
definitely putting that for that Chris. That's the Chris I'm using it for. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Please, parallel structures would be nice. Don't fight in the system that is rigged against you and that is willing to give you the illusion of hope so that you sit back down. So, hate to tell you, but a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. I think we probably need to cut that part out as a short and just post it. Parallel systems. Do not engage in the electoral system. Do not engage with the electoral system. Work outside of it in order to get the things you want. So
agreed.
But as we said, we need you guys you guys are the ones that have to make it happen. I definitely, us in independent media ideally should be working alongside you all to make that happen. So let us know in the comments what you think those parallel systems should look like. Talking about stuff like that is one of the reasons, probably among others, is why we're demonetized and suppressed on YouTube. So if you want to support our work, please, you can scan the QR code that you see on your screen. You can either go to the link that you see at the bottom of your screen, or there's a plethora of links in the description where you can donate to INN. Please don't forget to like. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm. Making a comment also helps, allegedly elevates our content. And please help us get to free, just more subs, please. Anything just to make us more viable and to before they take us down, which I'm pretty sure will be not too long coming, honestly, with the way things are going. And thanks for watching us, y'all. We love you.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the chats, boy wonder. On the Rockfin, we got a $2 tip from Lisa Iosi. We thank you for your generous contribution. That is Indy sending me the calendar for later.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, appreciate that, Lisa.
Whoever you are, thank you.
So, still only lizard people over on the Rockfin. 16 lizard people with no opposable thumbs. Get in that chat. Let us know what you think. Hit the like button over there.
Mastermind
Yes, sir.
Hour on YouTube said, I worked for John Deere in the early 90s, and they were assholes back then.
Yep. Shout out Louis Rossman. Been doing the work on that right to repair stuff. Particularly against John Deere. I need to look back into those cases, but I do believe they are still fighting those kind of things. So look out for that. I think it's a real problem in America myself. Our products are not made to be fixed. They are made to break down. So, you know how this goes already. You'll know what's up. Fred, we're talking about Workers Strike Back, Kashama's thing. Yep. Feel free to go find that. That's a thing. Not sure what they've been up to recently, but hopefully something. So, yep. All right. Let's get to my next one because it's short. And then we'll get to your extra story. But
Yep.
Collin Younis, you remember recently it was a safe zone designated, yes? Refugee camps in Gaza there, hospitals there. We've talked about plenty of those experiences. But guess what, Collin? Guess what?
What's up?
Well, Israel orders new Khan Younis evacuation, signaling it will reinvade. Many displaced Palestinians who fled Rafah are sheltering in Khan Younis. This is from the incredible Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com, which shout out antiwar.com. You can find them on many places online, antiwar.com specifically. Look at that right there. Also, follow the relaxed side of antiwar.com at antiwar news on Twitter. Very nice people. Go sub to them. Try to get that above 10. See a little number right there? Try to get that. Look at all the Indie Media Today, Indie Media Awards. They are an Indie Media Award honoree, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yes.
Go give them a shout out. But Dave DeCamp writes, Israel has ordered Palestinians to evacuate from the eastern point of Khan Younis, signaling its forces are preparing to reinvade the southern Gaza city, which has mostly been destroyed by the previous Israeli assault. Many of the over 1 million Palestinian civilians who led the Israeli assault on Rafah have been sheltering in Khan Younis and are being forcibly displaced again, according to the AP. Palestinians have been told to go to the nearby Al-Mawasi camp on the coast, which Israel has declared a safe zone. But like other so-called safe zones in Gaza, the camp has come under repeated Israeli attacks. Funny how that works. Israeli forces withdrew from Khan Younis in April and left the city in complete ruins. Municipal officials estimated the Israeli assault destroyed more than 80% of the buildings in Khan Younis and left the rest mostly uninhabitable. Israel said it destroyed Hamas battalions, military in the city, and claimed victory. Then why are you reinvading? What happened? What? I thought victory, mission accomplished, right? Yeah. Anyway, another planned invasion signals the Palestinian group could be reestablishing itself, as it has in other parts of Gaza disseminated by the Israeli military. Guys, they're everywhere. They're coming back. They're like the Undertaker. We killed them, and they just keep coming back. We don't understand. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists his goal is still to eliminate Hamas in Gaza, even as his own military has said the goal is impossible. This business of destroying Hamas, making Hamas disappear, is simply throwing sand in the eyes of the public, Israeli Defense Forces spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said last month. Hamas is an idea. Hamas is a party. It's rooted in the hearts of the people. Whoever thinks we can eliminate Hamas is wrong. Where's the lie? Anyway, on Sunday, Netanyahu again vowed to continue his genocidal war if Hamas is eliminated and rejected the idea of a permanent ceasefire.
Okay.
Who did?
Well, you notice. I've noticed that. I think because Biden is basically a corpse at this point. Like, no one has been talking about Israel and Gaza ad nauseum.
Come on, man.
But no one talks about. Everyone's like, "Oh, we're looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for a ceasefire. Looking for a ceasefire." Bibi has said multiple times, I am not interested in a fucking ceasefire. So what do you suppose you're going to do?
And they also don't tell you about all the peace deals and hostage negotiations Hamas has already accepted.
Which people are now, even online, are saying that's not happening. I'm like,
yeah, oh no.
Jesus Christ. Like,
no, their own generals are saying that's not happening. That there's been no intention of accepting a hostage negotiation.
Look,
yet outwardly, they care so much.
I have said this, I'll say it again. At this point, it's a matter of, do you want to defeat Hamas, or do you want to save lives, including the hostages that are currently in Gaza? Right? I would think at this point, because there's no way you're going to win against Hamas. Mainstream media pretty much has said as much. There is no way. So Bibi has already admitted that the hostages are, he's fine having them be collateral damage if it goes towards a larger goal of ethnically cleanse Gaza.
And these are the same hostages who, by the way, tell people that Hamas fighters shield them with their bodies while being fired upon by Israeli forces. So these are the same ones.
Israel has been using bodies as human shields themselves.
Literally strapped to vehicles.
Not even that. Like, years ago, I saw an article where it mentioned that Israel was using Palestinians essentially as human shields. So
we covered it. Look up the human shield segment we did. Shout out Robert Inlakesh, who put that out. So had that before a lot of other people covered it. So appreciate you.
Every statement is a confession, as they say.
You are correct. So Gaza's health ministry said on Monday that at least 37,900 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. I guarantee you that fucking number's way off. Hate to tell you. A total number
that killed the people who do the numbers, though. So
that's yes. So that includes around 15,000 children. I want you to just imagine 100 children laid out in a room. Now imagine them all not existing. Now multiply that by 150. Like, think of 1,000 children. It's a football field of little toddlers. Okay? These numbers are hard to grasp. So, please do try to do that math in your head. But the actual number is likely more higher, as the health ministry's numbers don't account for the thousands dead under the rubble, and the breakdown in communication in Israel's destruction of health facilities has impeded the counting of the dead. So, luckily we have places like Al Jazeera who are documenting this as best they can, and other journalists who are in the area, so we'll let them do some of this. So, we'll full screen, and we'll go here. Forcibly displaced children are among those who have been sleeping on the street after Israel's army told Palestinians again to leave Khan Younis in Gaza. We received a message on our mobile phones. Look at these children, how they walk. We did not find a car to ride in. We are going to look for a place to evacuate to. She's been displaced 6 times from Rafah. Patients from the European hospitals had to be pulled in their beds. Could you imagine this in the United States, Care Bear?
No, because there would be outrage if there was, well, if it was the right person. There would.
If this happened to one person somewhere, there would be outrage. Let alone entire families, groups, and thousands of people. Again, multiple times. Ugh. To the Nasir Hospital, several kilometers away, this is how the patients have been transported from the European hospital to the Nasir Hospital. Walking by foot, they called the hospital and told us to leave, so we left the European hospital to Nasir by foot. Doctors also had to abandon the European hospital and carried whatever medical equipment they could after patients were moved out.
Is extraordinarily difficult because access to transport is extraordinarily expensive given the price of fuel at the moment due to access issues, but also because of the injuries they've sustained and the chronic long-term nature of these injuries, mobilising is nigh on impossible, and transporting these patients out using ambulance means is just impossible as well.
This is not the first time people have been ordered to leave Khan Younis. In January, people were told to move further south. When the Israeli military moved in to occupy the area, most Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced multiple times. Several areas declared humanitarian zones by Israeli forces have later come under attack. More than 37,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war on Gaza. Again, a very conservative note. Yeah. So, little bit left from Al Jazeera, particularly Lyndall Rowlands and Alistair McCready. Israel's war on Gaza, 12 killed in Israeli air raid on safe zone. So they're already attacking the safe zone. So, Israeli air attacks killed 12 Palestinians, including 9 members of one family, in a designated safe zone after they followed Israel's evacuation orders. The AP reports. The UN estimates that up to 250,000 people have been affected by Israel's military order for people to leave areas near the southern city of Khan Younis, as the total number of displaced in Gaza is estimated to have reached 1.9 million people. Like, what's that? 3 times the population of Rhode Island? You know what I mean? Like, after hundreds of sick and wounded people fled the European hospital in Khan Younis, only 3 patients remain, says WHO Representative Rick Peppercorn, pleading for the hospital to be spared from attacks as an Israeli ground invasion looms. The killing of 4 people in an Israeli air raid on the Nur Shams refugee camp in the occupied West Bank brings to 6 the total number of Palestinians that have been killed in the area in the past 24 hours, including a woman and a child. Collin, any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Concerns.
Yeah.
But how long does this have to go on before people actually give a damn and do something? And given that BB is going to be visiting my neck of the woods in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So
watch your back out there, homie.
yeah, I mean, yeah, screaming at BB, fine, but that's not going to help the issue because it's deep seated within the ideology of Zionism. And I was reading something earlier today that basically, I forgot exactly what it said, but essentially it was the idea of, you know, being Jewish is essentially is a religion of peace. And that to go against that in kind of what is happening in Gaza right now is essentially going against
Oh yeah, they're all going to whatever hell they believe in. But, you know.
Right. I remember, because this is in terms of, this is actually not in terms of Jewish, but I think in terms of a Christian. Like, if a Christian was doing something like this, you know, it will kind of, you're not considered, because the idea of being a Christian is to be like Jesus. So if you were complacent in this, you essentially are not Jesus. So obviously, like Judaism, you don't have necessarily a correlation to that, but at the same time, but I can talk about in terms of, you know, it's supposed to be a faith of peace. It's supposed to be a faith of thinking about others. So especially those who are different from you. So the idea that in the name of, and I can't even say, it's not even in the name of religion. That's the thing. It's just like,
no, it's
the religious aspect of it is just kind of shut down. This is more in terms of almost like revenge to me. Like,
well, it's,
these people took our land, and because this land was promised to us by God, that, and I'm keeping it very basic. Like, I know there's a lot more that goes into
it's rooted in this right here. That's what it's
in
rooted
part,
in.
but in part, but it's just the idea that people are not, the people that need to be saying something are not.
Well, it's also,
and
I'm under the firm opinion that religion doesn't help this matter and hasn't helped this matter for centuries and decades and eons. But,
no,
you know, I find that for all of them. None of the above for me.
Right. Right.
But
my point was that, as you said, this is affecting children.
Yeah.
So if you have a heart, you should be a little bit more mindful of what you're doing that is terminating bloodlines.
Yeah.
And you being complicit in that. Like, if that happened here, we wouldn't hear that. Now, granted, I would argue if you're a person of color, they might be able to get away with it. But like, if you're of a certain class, especially, there'll be a lot more outrage. So the idea that Palestinians are considered less than and not even considered human, I think and I think at the end of the day, that's what kills me. It's the idea that if you believe that every human has unalienable universal rights, essentially the right to exist, that includes Palestinians. So the idea that they're being murdered, for what reason? Like, no one is necessarily talking about them. And then it's just the idea of obfuscating and gaslighting to justify what is going on. Where we know if it happened in the reverse, there would be a lot more conversations, I would say, about it.
For sure. I mean, well, Netanyahu's in D.C. May we hope he falls into a slow operating wood chipper, but you know, that's just me accidentally, hopefully. But you know, talking about these things is why we're demonetized. Go to code-v.com/indienewsnetwork, description below, in the QR code with your little smartphone there, or if you're in the live chat, put !donate. Kofi and let you donate that way. All other ways to donate are in the description below. And if you can't give monetarily, liking and subscribing is very helpful. You know, we're heavily suppressed, so any sharing you can do, we're gladly appreciated. And, you know, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. You know, otherwise, thanks for watching. Oh, to the chat.
Shout out to Natalie Williams in the chat. She gave $50 on the Cash App.
Appreciate you.
Natalie.
That's very sweet of you. Where's my...
I said thank you very much.
Yeah, there you go. Alright. Indy over there on the Rockfin. Thanking Lisa. Get Lisa for all the donation tonight. Look at that. 20 people on the Rockfin. All lizard people, clearly, because none of you are using your opposable thumbs. Type in the chat. So get in there. Let us know who you are. Let us know where you're from. Do something. You know? How'd you find that? How'd you find that little place there? So Indy's telling me about Lisa on Rockfin. Bro, where you been? We covered that a minute ago. Huh? We got it. We got it. Very much. Right. Let's look in the chat.
Natalie in YouTube said, hold on, how can this was referring to the clip you played from Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
How can this not break your heart and fill you with outrage? It does.
You have to be a
I think
fucking sociopath to not. But you know,
Mouse SF, Israel will wash away bathed in the waves of their own sin and depravity. You know, I agree.
Jacqueline Jack H. Why do they keep naming them safe zones when it's obvious that they are anything but? Because that's what you'd call a trap if it wasn't a trap. Very safe. Please come in. You know? But yeah, it's despicable for sure. So anything else you wanted to shout out?
Let's see. No, I think that's all that I saw.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Luckily, I'm gonna have my Twidget catch up. But you ready for your extra story?
Yeah.
Cool.
So this story, kind of was breaking when we went live last week, and then we had a family member in our community mention to us in the comments, not shaming us, but she was like, they were like, how come you didn't report on the story? And well, we said at the time, you know, it was breaking, and generally when we generally like to get stories that are a little more substantive. We generally do not like doing stories that are breaking, especially since there might be more information that we may want to refer to later. So not always, but many times we wait. That being said, I do have some more information. So last week, there was a failed coup attempt in Bolivia. I know other people, I'm sure, like Nick and I believe Nico, kind of reported on the story. But I wanted to give a little bit more substance to the story in terms of why this coup, the fallout, I would argue, but I would argue that it's been this situation forever, but you could probably guess why things are in Bolivia as the way they are if you have watched this show for any amount of time.
Yep.
So let's actually go to the actual coup, or like the attempt of, first, and then we'll talk about the aftermath later. So this clip is from The Guardian. If you want, hold on.
Yep. I was looking for my guess. My guess for what the cause is probably this.
Capitalism.
That I'm gonna go with that.
That, and who perpetuates that though?
The New World Order.
A new world order awaits.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's
Turing
watch
is on
this
it.
clip. Fire burned on the street in the Bolivian capital La Paz. As large crowds defended the country's political heart from the failed military coup. A tank was seen ramming the doors of the presidential palace, and troops took control of the central square, blocking media entry. We need the Bolivian people to mobilize and organize themselves, this is the president, against this coup d'etat and in favor of democracy.
Go away.
We cannot allow once again coup attempts to claim Bolivian land. Democracy, yes. Dictatorship, no. That's what the protesters are chanting. The heavily armed troops were seen storming the palace under the apparent... Oh.
I can back it up a little. Oh, there it is.
Under the apparent direction of a top military general. The army does not lack balls to ensure the tomorrow of our children. The future of our children, the well-being and progress of our people. Troops were ordered to retreat out of a confrontation between the president and Zuniga, who has since been detained. Footage captured the military's removal from the square. It fills us with bravery, courage, and to keep on resisting any coup attempt. Because Bolivia deserves its democracy, which has been won in the streets and with blood brothers and sisters. Democracy, yes. Dictatorship, no. I'm sure that's not all they're saying, but
yeah, I'm with you. Because yeah.
Anyone who knows Spanish, if you knew what the protesters were saying, let us know in the chat.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Democracy simply doesn't work.
What? Especially when U.S. hegemony is blatant and ever present.
Yes. So let's go to the article now. One of the rare times that we actually use mainstream media. So this is from NBC News. So they write, economic turmoil in Bolivia fuels distrust in government and its claim for a failed coup. The country's dependence on the dollar and mounting debt have resulted in an economic crisis.
Well, there's your problem. Quit using that dollar. Get away from that. You know?
Right.
But then you will probably send a group of military armed men to coup you as well. So, you know.
Signs reading, "I'm buying dollars," line the doors of Victor Vargas' shoe shop in the heart of Bolivia's biggest city, a desperate attempt to keep his family business alive. Just a few years ago, the 45-year-old Vargas would unlock the doors at 8 a.m. to a crush of customers already waiting to buy tennis shoes imported from China. Now his shop sits hopelessly empty. Right now, we're in a dreadful crisis, he said. No one buys anything anymore. We don't know what's going to happen. Bolivians like Vargas have been hit hard by economic turmoil in the small South American nation, fueled by a long-time hyper-dependence on, and now shortage of, US dollars. The economic downturn has been exacerbated by an ongoing feud between President Luis Arce, is that how you say his name?
Luis Arce?
Arce.
Yeah.
Arce. And his ally turned rival, former President Evo Morales, in the lead up to next year's presidential election. Many Bolivians impacted by the crisis have lost trust in Arce, who denies the country is even in an economic crisis. Bolivia has an economy that's growing. An economy in crisis doesn't grow, Arce told the Associated Press in an interview. That was contradicted by both economists, and dozens of Bolivians. That deep distrust came to a head on Wednesday following a spectacle which the government called a failed coup d'etat, and opponents included Morales, and a staged self-coup meant to earn the unpopular leader political points before an elections. Whether the coup attempt was real or not, most Bolivians who spoke to the AP said they no longer believe what their leader says and say Arce would be better served addressing Bolivia's gasping economy and yes, time carrying out political stunts. He should think about Bolivia's economy, make a plan to move forward, find a way to get dollars, and work to move Bolivia forward, Vargas said. No more of these childish self-coups.
Self-coups? Stop cooing yourself. Stop cooing yourself. Stop cooing yourself.
That simmering anger has paved the way for even more strife in a country that is no stranger to political unrest. Bolivia's economic crisis is rooted in a complex combination of dependence on the dollar, draining international reserves, mounting debt, and failures to produce products like gas, once the Andean nation's economic boom.
Yeah.
This has meant that Bolivia has largely become an importer economy totally dependent on dollars, said to Gonzalo Chavez, an economicist with Bolivia's Catholic University. That once worked in Bolivia's favor, driving the country's economic miracle as it became one of the region's fastest growing economies. Vargas' family opened a shoe business nearly 30 years ago because they saw it as a surefire way to ensure stability for coming generations. The The imports shoes from China, which they pay for in dollars, and sell them in Bolivia's currency, Bolivianos. Without dollars, they have no business.
Yeah.
The shortage of dollars
corporate
has
spin
led
on
to the
this shit
emergence
is
of a-
ridiculous.
What's that?
The corporate spin on this is fucking ridiculous.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll be able to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
I'm sure our family in the chat will be able to fill in the gaps
NBC
here.
stands for never been correct news.
Right.
Just saying.
The shortage of dollars has led to the emergence of a black market, with many sellers bringing in greenbacks from neighboring Peru and Chile and selling them at a gouged price. Pascala Kitse, I guess that's his or her, I guess that's a she, 46, spent her Saturday walking around La Paz's downtown, going to different currency exchange shops, desperately searching for dollars to buy car parts. While the official exchange rate is 6.97 Bolivianos to the dollar, she was told the real price was 9.30 Bolivianos, far too high of a price for her. So she kept walking, hoping to find luck elsewhere. Gouge prices have trickled down to everything. People have stopped buying shoes, meat, and clothing, and that has pushed working class people deeper into poverty. Bolivians make jokes about having mattress banks, storing cash at home because they don't trust banks.
Sounds familiar.
There are no jobs, and the money we earn isn't enough for anything, Creepsay said. Everyone suffers. Some vendors like August paint signs on their business doors. Hopeful sellers will trade dollars at a more reasonable price. It's a complicated economic bind that has few short-term solutions, said Chavez, the economist. But Arce says that Bolivia's economy is one of the most stable and says he's taking action to address problems ailing Bolivians, including shortages of dollars and gasoline. He said the government is also industrializing, investing in new economies like tourism and lithium.
Ooh, say what again?
Lithium.
Oh, not the famous song by the same name, but the unique metal that we need for batteries to operate. So that couldn't be why a coup happened at all, could it? I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. What's happening to those African countries that also have lithium?
The West got the boot.
And thus coups are now taking. I mean, I'm just saying.
Right. I mean, it's good to read. I think sometimes it's good to read stuff from mainstream media, especially given what we've shared, like collectively, and what our audience knows. That, as I said, they're able to fill in the gaps where mainstream media does not necessarily share.
No, and they put stuff in like the fucking fine print. You know, you got to go in and look for the actual truth that is hidden amongst the lies. But we usually tend to avoid it. But, you know, sometimes things are things. But
while Bolivia sits on the world's biggest stores of lithium, a high-value metal key to transitioning to a green economy, investment is only viable in the long term, largely due to government failures, said Chavez. Meanwhile, inflation has outpaced economic growth, and most Bolivians face unstable work conditions with minuscule pay.
Yep.
That is only compounded by ongoing fights between Arce and Morales, who returned from exile after resigning during unrest in 2019, which Morales maintains was a coup against him. Now, the former allies have slung insults and fought over who will represent their movement for Socialism Party, known by a Spanish acronym MAS, M-A-S, ahead of the 2025 elections. Arce and Evo Morales, they fight over who is more powerful, Farkas said, but neither govern for Bolivia. There's a lot of uncertainty. Oh.
Yep.
Broad discontent has fueled waves of protests and strikes in recent months. Protests and roadblocks have dealt another economic blow to Farkas, the shoe vendor, because customers from all over the country no longer travel to buy products because of the chaos of ubiquitous protests. Morales, who still yields a great deal of power in Bolivia, blocked Arce's government from passing measures in Congress to ease the economic turmoil, which Arce told the AP was a political attack. Morales is full of speculation that the military assault on the government palace last week, allegedly led by former military commander Jose Zuniga, was a political stunt organized by Arce to gain sympathy from Bolivians. The claim was first made by Zuniga himself upon his arrest. He tricked and lied to not just the Bolivian people, but the entire world, Morales said in a Sunday radio program. The political spats left many like 35-year-old Edwin Cruz, a truck driver, shaking their heads as they wait for hours, sometimes days, in long lines for diesel and gasoline because of intermittent shortages caused by a lack of foreign currency. Diesel is like gold now, he said. People aren't idiots.
Pause. It's been that way, homie. Where you been? What's that? There's a specific dollar that we now... It's called the petrodollar. I don't know if you've heard about it, but, you know, barrels of oil per what? US dollar? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying. Just saying. Diesel's been like that, but I feel you. That's rough. Rough day.
Just quickly in the chat, I'm being asked to sound like Todd in order for him
believe it.
To believe this is in the news. So
NBC
basically, you
news
want
piece.
me to lie.
Yes, lie better. Yeah.
Diesel's like gold now, he said. People aren't idiots. And with this whole thing with the self-coup, this government has to go. Cruz is among those who don't want to vote for either Morales or Arce. Jesus, sounds familiar. While Bolivians have few other options, Chavez says discontent opened a small window for an outsider to gain traction, just as it has with a number of Latin American outsiders in recent years. More recently, self-described anarcho-capitalist Javier Milei has taken the helm of neighboring Argentina with promises to lift the country out of its economic spiral, which shares a number of similarities with Bolivia's.
Going real well, ain't it?
Right.
The Argentinians know. They know what's going on.
Meanwhile, Vargas doesn't know what he'll do with his family's shoe store. Once a point of pride, the shop has turned into a financial drain. He would pass it down to one of his 4 children, but all of them want to leave Bolivia. One of his children has already migrated to China. They don't want to live here anymore, Vargas said in this empty store. Here in Bolivia, there's no future. So, apologize if you hear fireworks in my neighborhood popping off.
Yep. You mean it's not just a low income level of DC? Whatever.
Well, considering I live in a gentrified neighborhood.
Shit, Collin moved. I forgot you moved on up. On up. Shit. Yeah, you got your piece of the pie. Yeah, no, this is standard stuff, South American nonsense, and it really doesn't matter who's at fault. It makes no difference. It works both ways. So, and we've had arguments with people about Morales, too, and how, but at the end of the day, he's a what? What is he? How does this work? Politicians be politicking? Just saying,
Right.
So, I get it's hard when you're dealing with the strong arm and big stick of America down your neck. I get it. But at the same time, let's make some ways out of that, shall we? Anyway, I don't got anything else to add.
No.
I think we covered it. So, I gotta find you a donation slide, though.
Oh.
Let's go back.
You just pull it back.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
But anyway, if you liked that segment, please feel free to scan the QR code where you can donate, or you can go to the link below on the screen where you can also donate, or you can go to the description and you can find a plethora of ways that you can donate to the network. We are heavily demonetized and suppressed on YouTube, so we need your support in helping us possibly to uplift us from the ranks of death on the platform. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. As I said, we talked about this story because someone essentially asked us to, and we love to have the opportunity to talk about more stories and segments that you suggest. Make sure you leave a comment. Again, that's how we got this story in the first place. Someone left a comment and said, how come you didn't talk about Bolivia? Well, here's your Bolivia story. I forgot who it was. But thank you
having that day, homie. We try to get out fast, but give us a second. You know what I mean?
Well, I think either way it's good. I think again that we waited in this case. Just now, granted, this is mainstream, not sharing the whole shebang. Again, our audience can fill in the gaps, but at least we kind of hear from people on the ground and what they're saying and the reality that they're facing. So that
you gotta leave those comments. Very useful for us.
But it gives a little bit more context to what's happening right now and why it's happening.
Help us make this number happen. Fight back against the algorithmic suppression and hit the subscribe button. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Collin, let's check with chat one last time, and I will pull up our calendar for this week. While we do that, but Rockfin, Anna Mayers, who I'm sure has been going into Rockfin withdrawals. But she's there. She wants people to give her a fucking banana. Bananas are a very important source of potassium. Please enjoy your bananas responsibly. But appreciate you, Anna Mayers, holding it down on the Rockfin. I'm not sure when Rockfin will get our INN page worked out, but we'll let you know when that happens. Are there still lizard people over on Rockfin? On Rumble, I mean. Wild Rose, love right back at you over on the Rumble. We got one less lizard person watching on Rumble. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Fight back against the lizard people with your opposable thumbs. That's how you beat them. You gotta type in the chat. Alright, anything else on the YouTube before we get to our...
So Jack H said, wonder how much truth there is in this so-called feud between Morales and Arce. I'm sure there is with our finger on the pulse, literally. Especially for that sweet, sweet lithium.
Lithium.
Mouse SF said, "Is that a pocket of lithium, or you're just Coup to deceive me?"
Yep. And in case you didn't know, there is a little tiny Kurt Cobain in every battery cell. Appreciate him making that sacrifice for us. But yep. People were asking why is that NBC News, just completely ignoring, the context, which they tend to do.
Yes.
Jacqueline Jack H in the chat, dozens of Bolivians, and how many people live in Bolivia? Sounds like the usual corporate thing. So, yeah. So Nick Riviera said Arce, right? Because I remember Spanish class. I got there eventually. Took me a minute. Florida's tough, bro.
Eventually?
It's just you gotta go through the phonetics. You gotta hooked on phonics your way through the Spanish. You'll get there. One of these days it'll just be second nature to me. But until then, So, yep. All right. Calendar. What do we got coming up, Care Bear?
Tomorrow, I guess. Sorry, I got a public service
announcement.
Yep. Have to boil water until further notice by the looks of it.
Okay.
Anyway, tomorrow, hopefully, Politically Homeless with Himbo and Crab will be on at 9. I actually not sure if they're going to be on either, given that it's the 4th. She's homeless. She's homeless. But check our Twitter at Get It Indie News for any updates. I would imagine they're not, but we'll see. Friday, Angel in the afternoon. 7 in the evening. And then we will have a clip show of American Tradition.
It's a great American
10:30.
tradition.
So that will be on Friday. Saturday, we will have Pro Wrestling Talk with Angel at 8. Sunday, Himbo will be gaming at 8. Wait, that's from last week.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that is for Sunday. Okay. So Himbo will be gaming at 8, followed by How Do We Miss That at 10. Hopefully, Indy's
ISP
internet
issues
doesn't
get
break
worked
again.
Out.
Indy's saying yes, there'll be Politically Homeless will be going live tomorrow. Monday, nothing for right now. Tuesday, I'm sure there'll be American Tradition with Jesse.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back here on Wednesday. Oh, so Indy's saying Himbo will be gaming on Saturday.
Okay.
So move the gaming on Sunday to Saturday, and then it's just you guys.
Yep. Cool. Anything else?
No.
Cool. Anyway,
Enjoy
last
your
thing.
4th, everybody.
Get some
Enjoy your
merch.
barbecues.
Go pick your
Get some
little INN
merch.
mug. Get a T-shirt. Like, it's summer's coming. Get you a little tanky top. Get you one of those little tanky tops. You know what I'm saying? Get you a watermelon hoodie. Why would you not want a watermelon hoodie? Explain that to me. Explain. Huh? Anyway. Well, I think that's our show. As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night.
Have a good week. Happy 4th.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye. Have a great time.